All right. So I can see that the mic is not muted in the software, and I have the blue light. So I'm here. I'm talking. That was a problem yesterday, where I started waxing philosophically about bringing a sword to high school for a Chaucer medieval day, and didn't realize that it was muted. Then I showed a film that was I'd already shown a couple of months ago, which I try not to do, and I have a list that kind of tells me that. Then I showed a film about Navy football that took the YouTube stream down. So yesterday was what a day! What a day! So we're back. I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And that was from the Prelinger Archive. The Prelinger Archive have been scanning a bunch of new stuff, which is great because they hadn't done it in like 20 years. And I know because I helped them get all that stuff online, and I'm helping them get this new batch of stuff online. So I'm seeing a lot of really interesting stuff. And that was from Calvin Films. Calvin Films was a big industrial sponsored filmmaker based in Kansas, somewhere in the breadbasket of the United States. And I've shown a couple of films that they made. Some of that management series stuff that he made for Alcoa, the ones where they ask a question and the answer to the question is always the manager messed up. So anyways, Prelinger got a bunch of stuff from Calvin, and these were a bunch of outs, and I've been showing some Cornet outs from the stuff that we've been scanning, but these are Calvin outs, and there was some amazing stuff in there, as you saw. Some stuff you're like, what? What is that weird Lego machine? I really like it, and I feel like I need to edit that into the Drugs Are Like That film that I have. So, anyhow, yes, we're here to watch some 16mm films, and behind me, if I move this over, you can see behind me I have a film scanner set up, and this is, what's the name of this film? This is from the Cornet collection. It's Basic Needs, Clothing. Let's watch. Enjoy.
My trip to Earth was very interesting. I learned about lots of things. I learned about food. I learned about clothing. And I learned about shelter.
Food, clothing, and shelter? We don't need those things.
But people on Earth do. That's why they're called the basic needs.
Well, tell me about your trip to Earth and about that basic need, clothing. That's called clothing, right?
That's right.
What do people on Earth do with it?
They wear it.
What for?
For many reasons. But the most important reason is to protect themselves from different kinds of weather when they're outside.
Different kinds of weather? That's strange. That's not the way it is here.
But that's the way it is on Earth. Weather changes. Sometimes it rains and people need clothing that keeps them dry. Sometimes it's cold and people need clothing that keeps them warm. Sometimes it's hot and people need clothing that doesn't make them too warm.
I wouldn't like to live on a planet like that.
But that's why people on Earth need all kinds of different clothing to protect them from all kinds of different weather. That's why clothing is called a basic need.
So, clothing must grow right inside that sort of place. What's it called?
A closet. No, clothing doesn't grow there. Most people have to buy the clothes they wear. They buy their clothes at clothing stores. There are all kinds. Some clothing stores are just for men and boys. Some clothing stores are just for women and girls. And some clothing stores are for people with unusual sizes. And some of the places where people buy their clothes aren't clothing stores at all. They're just departments in larger stores where people can buy all kinds of things.
Wow! Clothing sure must be important to people on Earth.
It certainly is. Now, in order to buy their clothes, people need the help of many other people. There are people who put out the clothes that people can buy. There are salespeople who help them find the things they want.
Is that hard?
Well, people may want a special color or style. And people always need the right size of clothing. Sometimes, when people buy clothes, they don't fit exactly right. Then they need the help of a tailor who knows what has to be done to the clothes to make them fit perfectly. And the tailor may need the help of other people to do the cutting and sewing that has to be done. So there are many people who work in a clothing store or a department store to help people get the clothes they need.
Do clothes grow there in the stores or clothing departments?
Oh no, clothing has to be made.
It has to be made?
That's right. The clothing stores and department stores need people to bring the clothes to the stores from the places where they're made. The clothing often comes in trucks from the factories that made the clothes. Sometimes it comes in trains. And even in ships. And it takes lots of people to run the ships, and trains, and trucks that carry the clothes from the factories where they're made.
Do people work inside these factories?
Oh, yes. Many people are needed to make the clothes. Sometimes the finished clothes are really made from different parts. People are needed to run the machines that cut the parts from pieces of material. Many parts can be cut at the same time. And then other people have to sew the parts together. The clothes are made of things called fabrics. All kinds of fabrics are used to make clothing. For instance, some are wool fabrics, or cotton fabrics, or silk fabrics, or nylon fabrics, or leather.
I suppose those different fabrics don't grow right there inside the clothing factories.
That's right. Very good.
Then where do the fabrics come from?
Some come from places called weaving mills. For instance, in a mill, cotton threads are woven together to make the cotton fabric the clothing is made from. People have to run the machines that make the fabric out of the threads. Other people are needed to dye the cotton threads into many different colors that are woven into different colored cotton fabrics. And people are needed to make the threads that the fabrics are made of, like cotton threads, and wool threads, and silk threads, that are made into all the different kinds of clothes people on Earth wear.
But the threads must be made of something too.
Yes, they are.
Do those things grow?
Well, many of them do. Cotton, for instance, grows on cotton plants. Machines pick the cotton, and people have to run the machines. Then the cotton can be made into cotton threads. Wool, on the other hand, doesn't grow on plants. It grows on animals called sheep, and people have to cut it off the sheep for it to be made into wool threads.
Wow!
Now, silk threads come from the cocoons of tiny insects called silkworms. But they're not really worms at all. They're caterpillars that spin their cocoons of silk around themselves. Leather is made from the skin of animals. People make different kinds of leather from the skin of different kinds of animals.
So all the fabrics start with something that grows?
Well, not all fabrics. Some don't begin with animals or plants. They're made from chemicals.
Well, it sure seems like a lot of work for people on Earth to get clothing to wear, doesn't it? People have to raise certain plants, or animals, or mix chemicals, so people can make threads that are woven into fabrics, or raise animals so their skins can be used. And then people have to work in factories where the fabrics are cut into shapes that are sewn together to make all kinds of things. And then people have to take the clothing to all kinds of stores where there have to be people to sell the clothing so people can get it into their closets.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people, but they have to do it on Earth. Clothing is a basic need, and I brought you a sample. It's called a shirt, a Hawaiian shirt.
Ooh, looks good. I think I could get used to clothing.
Thank you, Jay-Z Penny, for that. Yeah, so I've got it. Where are they? Where's it go? Okay. So this was in a box that I got with all the pallets of Coronet stuff, and it says the basic needs clothing, answer print 1. So this is something that when they made a print from the negative, they would send it to the filmmaker or film company and say, all right, how does this look? And then the filmmaker would give like final okays or notes on what needed to be changed, like the color's too saturated, or it's too dark, or it's too bright, the audio is too low, etc. And so this probably has not been run through a projector. So that's why it was in beautiful shape. The other thing that tipped me off was Bill Walker Productions. I was like, wait a minute, I know who Bill Walker is. He did a bunch of animations for Cornet, specifically the Wonder Cat series. And it looks like they did not vary from the Wonder Cat formula. And Mel Waskin is the guy who wrote the script, supposedly. And Mel Waskin did a bunch of scripts for Cornet in the 70s and 80s and probably 90s. And he probably just said, you know what, this Wonder Cat thing's great. Let's just have an annoying animated character who will just ask an incessant number of questions about whatever the topic is. And there you go. There is the Basic Needs series. So, I have at least 2 more in that series, and there's probably more in that box at the storage unit. So, I will ration those out so that we don't have to have that insipid questioning, constant questioning. Although, it seems like Wonder Cat is a little bit more cloying, and I don't know why. Maybe you can answer the question in the comments. You might have noticed I have a link here, donate for Western North Carolina hurricane help. I've done some research and talked to some people from the area. This is specific to Asheville and Buncombe County, which got hit pretty hard. And it's a more populous county than other mountain counties around there. But anyways, there's an organization that's been doing work there for a long time called belovedasheville.com, or Beloved Asheville. And they have a get involved, donate. They are all volunteer based. The money goes straight to helping people, and they already have established ways to help people prior to the hurricanes. So I've been donating to them. Donate to them or find another organization in that area. There's a lot of people that are suffering, and clothing is one of the reasons they don't have clean clothing. It's all muddy or it has been contaminated. And unfortunately, well, not fortunately, what am I trying to say? The films I have today all kind of relate to the damage that the hurricane, and that was all unintentional, but it all seems to come back. So here is a civil defense film from the NARA collection, a National Archives collection that I've been working with. And this is, it didn't have a title, but I called it Ship Hits a Bridge.
Disaster can come in strange shapes and forms. For Hopewell, Virginia, the shape was a huge 600-foot sulfur tanker heading down the James River at dawn. Suddenly, approaching the Hopewell Bridge, it loses steering. The ship crashes into the bridge, sending 2 long spans and 4 cars plunging into the river. 3,000 cars a day use this bridge, the only one around. People commuting to work in Hopewell, now cut off from their jobs and apt to be for a very long time. The solution? A free ferry service, quickly set up by the Virginia Office of Emergency Services and the State Highway Department.
Man, I tell you, it's been a lifesaver.
Civil defense. It helps in peacetime, too. And this was another time when civil defense paid off.
I wrote down it was only a minute long, and yet I still ate some food because it is lunchtime. Yes, civil defense, very important. People need help, and yeah. Okay, here's another film. This is from the Prelinger Archive as well. They don't. They've scanned all sorts of things over the last 2 years, and this one I love. It's the ABCs of Pool Care. Enjoy.
For thousands of American homeowners, the private pool has been a most rewarding investment. Right in his own backyard is a place for healthful relaxation and family fun. An ideal center for outdoor social events, day or evening, and an architectural feature that enhances the attractiveness and the value of his property. Naturally, an investment so rewarding entails responsibilities. Keeping the water healthfully pure, clear, and inviting, and its surroundings in clean, ship-shape condition. This used to be a big job. It's certainly an important one. It used to be a confusing and tiresome chore, but now there's a convenient way to pool sanitation developed by Pensalt Chemicals Corporation, a leading producer of chemicals for pool treatment for over half a century. This scientifically approved system can make any pool safe and enjoyable for swimming with a minimum of effort and expense. As simple as A, B, C. A beautiful warm day and the water looks clean, clear, and sparkling. What a day for a swim. But hold it right there. The fact is that water that looks clear and clean is not necessarily sanitary. Harmful bacteria are constantly carried into the water through surface drainage, through the air, and especially by bathers. Chlorine today is still the most effective and least expensive way to purify water. It's important to remember that there are various methods of chlorination for various types of pool situations. For example, gas chlorination is most widely used to purify municipal water supplies, also to purify large community swimming pools. Use of chlorine gas in smaller pools would require careful safety procedures, gas masks for attendants. There is risk from gas leakage or cylinder malfunction. Also, cylinder chlorine is designed for continual use, not normal seasonal use. Requirements of normal home pool use would not make chlorine gas an efficient method of water treatment. Sodium hypochlorite, better known as laundry bleach, is normally purchased for household use in gallon containers. This material, while generally inexpensive, is also relatively unstable and can lose considerable strength when exposed to sunlight. There is also an inconvenience in disposing of empty gallon containers. Granular or tableted calcium hypochlorite is widely accepted and an efficient method of pool water treatment. Perchloron granular calcium hypochlorite and Chlortabs, a handy tablet form, are ideal for home pool use. Why? Because there are no swimming pool chemicals on the market that kill bacteria faster than perchloron or Chlortabs. They are concentrated and highly stable, are easy to use and store. A 100-pound drum of perchloron is equivalent to at least 70 gallon jugs of liquid bleach. Just about every swimmer knows that by adding chlorine-bearing chemicals such as perchloron to the water, the bacteria problem can be controlled. Perchloron will also go after the algae, the tiny plant life that sometimes discolor pool water and slime up the bottoms and sides of outdoor pools. But the question is, how much chlorine to use and how often? Too little won't be effective in killing bacteria. And how long will the chlorine last? We know that chlorine will be quickly dissipated by the warm rays of the sun, by debris, and by a lot of pool use. To help us answer that question, we can look to Penn Swim and the Penn Swim girl, who is the spirited symbol you'll see on the package of every Penn Swim product. And here she comes, right off the package to show us that pool care can be as simple as ABC. Now let's see for ourselves just how this ABC formula works. A, adjust pH. B, boost chlorine level. C, check chlorine level. These are the 3 simple steps that will help keep your pool crystal clear and safe for you and your family. First, adjust pH. Simple. Well, pH is just a numerical rating from 0 to 14, indicating the relative acidity or alkalinity of water. Within the pH scale is your comfort zone. A pH rating of 7 is neutral. Values above 7 are alkaline, and those below 7 are acid. People are most comfortable in water that's just slightly alkaline, in a pH zone of 7.2 and 7.8. And fortunately, it's in this range that chlorine is most effective. You don't have to be a chemist to make a pH test. With a simple, inexpensive test kit, you can determine the pH in a few minutes. If the test shows pH too high, 7.8 or above, lower the pH with muriatic acid or sodium bisulfate, available through your PennSwim dealer. Now, with the help of our PennSwim girl, we'll get a sample of the pool water. This sample should test a pink color after adding red indicator solution to the water. If it's too low, 7.2 or below, you need an alkaline adjuster. You can raise the pH or increase alkalinity with PennSwim Aquette. Your pH reading has told you just how much Aquette to add for each 10,000 gallons of water in order to bring the pH up to the comfort zone. Packaged in convenient plastic bottles, Aquette in powder form dissolves immediately and may be added directly from the container by scattering it over the pool surface. Aquette prevents the excessive consumption of the bacteria-killing chlorine in perchloron due to low pH. It reduces the chlorine odor too, prevents eye and nose irritation, and most important, it stops damage to the pool, filter, and piping resulting from low pH. After application, test pH again. So you finish step A by adjusting pH. And now for step B. Boost the level of chlorine in your pool. Here you add enough perchloron, or chlor-tabs, the handy tablet form, to bring the amount of chlorine residual up to 0.6 to 1 part per million of water. Chlorine residual, that's the active chlorine in the water that's going to be available for killing bacteria and algae after the initial chlorine demand has been met. To get the proper chlorine residual, add 2 ounces of perchloron, or the same quantity of chlor-tabs per 10,000 gallons. Both products contain 70% available chlorine ready to go to work on killing harmful bacteria and discoloring algae. And with either product, you're assured of an additional release of chlorine to sanitize the water for normal pool usage for 1 whole day. And now for step C. Check for chlorine residual every day. To do this, take a sample of water from your pool. Add clear indicator solution to the sample and compare with the yellow color standard in your test kit. If the chlorine residual is in the acceptable range, you're all set for a refreshing swim. If not, add enough perchloron to bring the chlorine residual up to the acceptable level. And now that her job is complete, our Penn Swim girl is on her way home. Home in the water shown on the label of all Penn Swim products. Come on in, the water's fine, and it can stay pure and inviting all day under normal usage. If you have a large number of swimmers on an especially hot day, a small addition of perchloron may be needed in the afternoon. But in any event, follow the simple ABCs of home pool care. Yes, and there's a whole family of reliable Penn Swim chemicals for every other pool care. Penn Swim Sure Flop for clearing cloudy water. Penn Swim Armazide to knock out algae, fungi, and slime. Tileite is Penn Swim's fast-acting cleaner that keeps tile, porcelain, and cement surfaces sparkling bright. For plastic pools, pool liners, even the lounge chairs, Linerite is an easy-to-use cleaner. All Penn Swim products are made by Penn Salt Chemicals Corporation, producer of quality chemicals for water treatment for over a half-century. All the Penn Swim products are backed by the Good Housekeeping Consumer's Guarantee Seal, your assurance of consistent quality to keep your pool clean, healthful, and refreshing. Remember the name, Penn Swim. Quality chemicals for every pool care need. Penn Swim.
You can't read my handwriting. Fungi? Is that what he said? Fungi? Oh boy. They do what they can to basically change our pronunciations. Like, it's interesting, like, I guess most of us learned how to pronounce fungi, in school, right? In high school or grade school. And so maybe they weren't teaching this when this guy went to school, so he didn't know. Fungi. Foon. Seems like you would just sound it out, right? Like well, maybe fungi is what I would say, like fungi if I didn't know. But there you go. That's why we keep this list, and I need to find the other list. Old Radios, you told me, it's online on a previous show, so I just need to find it. All right. And as a reminder, so that's all about treating water. Because when water sits around, it can get contaminated, and that's what's going on in Western North Carolina. So here's a place you can donate, but if this is not a place you feel like, if you want to go to like United Way, Red Cross is not great because of their, they spend a lot of money on infrastructure organization, but even then, just give something. Give something. They need help. They're not used to having hurricanes, and they got one, and it was horrible. We're a little bit more used to it, but okay. Let's learn about range grazing practices, courtesy of the Perlinger Archive. Enjoy.
There is a place where man can do well on the land. Yet it is a place where the wind can blow all his work away. If man misuses this good earth, the wind can blow his life away. The Great Plains of North America were once one vast natural pasture. French explorers gave it the name prairie, which was their word for grassland. The Great Plains extend from the eastern hardwood forests to the Rocky Mountains and from the Gulf of Mexico far into Canada. About 1/2 of this area is still natural pasture. The native grasses found here can be driven out by continuous close cropping or by the plow. Where the stockman has been zealous in meeting growth requirements of his grasses as well as of his stock, these natural pastures have raised our livestock for a century without benefit of cultivation, seeding, fertilization, or irrigation. And this has been accomplished in a rigorous climate. The yield is not so great as from grasses introduced to our pastures from other regions, but when the costs of producing a pound of beef are compared, it is obvious why all the tillable range has not been converted to planted grasses. Much of our Great Plains was suitable for cultivation. Some was not. One thing we can never forget is that droughts are normal in the Great Plains, but in good years it is all too human to push this unpleasant fact from our minds. We have learned how to reestablish native grasses on lands found unsuitable for cultivation, but this ought to be done in the good years, just when it may seem least necessary, when prospects for cash grain crops look best. Let's listen to some remarks on this subject by an experienced rancher, Mr. A.P. Atkins of Guymon, Oklahoma.
I see you've had that northwest pasture empty up there all summer. How about renting it to me?
No, I can't afford to rent grass, even though I don't happen to be using it right at the moment. I may not even use that grass this year, but I figure that that's a reserve that in case next year's dry, I won't run out of grass. And besides, to keep a cover on this land helps this grass to reseed and helps it to absorb what little moisture we do get even in the dry years.
Native grasslands, both pastures and meadows, vary greatly in productivity from year to year. This meadow cuts up to 1 ton of hay in good years and less than half a ton in poor years. The kinds of native perennial plants you see being harvested have been here for centuries. They have adjusted their growth to meet the changeable weather of the Great Plains. While many kinds of cultivated plants die in droughts, most native grasses simply become dormant. The varieties of perennial plants on a native range will vary with grazing treatments. The composition of the mixture is changed for better or worse by the time of year when it is grazed. This pasture was rested in the spring and grazed in the summer. There's an abundance of western wheatgrass, a cool season grower. Another pasture on the same ranch was grazed each spring, but rested in summer. This one has an abundance of blue grama, a warm season grower. The closeness of grazing affects the growth relationship between short and long grasses. Kenneth Conrad, a successful rancher near Ray, Colorado, explains it this way.
Cattle are lazy by nature and prefer the tall, lush grasses. This lets the grama increase. In dry climate or on dry sites, we should expect a high percentage of short grasses. On the other hand, in areas of higher rainfall or on moist sites, the short grasses are out of place. Under good management of grazing, they'll be crowded back to the proper amounts by taller, higher-producing grasses. It takes grass to make grass. However you harvest it, leave half and take a bigger half next year.
A good range grazing program should be based on 4 cardinal principles. First, no more livestock should be put on any pasture than it will support. Second, grazing should take place in most favorable seasons. Third, animals should be kept as evenly distributed as possible. Fourth, the kind of livestock should be adapted to the type of grass and the region in which the farmer or rancher lives. There is no more economical conservation practice for native pastures than management of grazing. When moderately grazed, the soil is protected the year round. The plains have been truly named great. In all conscience, let us see to it that they shall never cease to deserve that name.
I don't know why I'm so blue. Oh, no, now I'm not so blue. So I'm using the webcam from this iMac, and so for some reason it makes me blue. Not quite sure. Anyhow, where are we? Here are animals and their foods. Another Cornet film. Enjoy.
Do you ever get hungry? Of course you do. All of us do. Good food helps keep us strong and healthy. Some of the foods we eat come from plants. Some of our foods come from animals. Like Jane, we all need food to live and grow. All animals need food, and a farm is a good place to see some animals and the foods they eat. Susan lives on the farm. She feeds some of the animals. Her pet is Windy the dog. Although he sometimes eats dog biscuits and cereal, most of his food is meat. We say that dogs are meat-eating animals. The cows on the farm eat hay and grass. Cows are plant-eating animals. Pigs sometimes eat meat, but usually they eat corn and other grains. Pigs are both meat eaters and plant eaters. Most farm animals are fed by the farmer or his family, but sometimes animals must find their own food. Whiskers the cat is looking for food. He is hunting for a mouse. This bobcat is hunting for food too. All wild animals must find their own food. Many of these animals, like the bobcat, are meat eaters. They hunt other animals and kill them for food. Many other wild animals look for and eat only plants. The beaver is a plant-eating animal. He eats the roots and stems of plants that grow in the water. He also likes the bark of trees. Can you think of other plant-eating animals living in the forest? The moose is a large plant eater. Another plant eater, much like the moose, is the deer. This baby deer, a fawn, is searching for some tender grass to eat. During winter, it is harder for the deer and the other wild animals to find food. They search under the snow for leaves and grass, or nibble at the bark of twigs. Does the deer remind you of this plant eater? A cow's jaws and teeth are well suited for eating plants. If we could look into the cow's mouth, we'd see that she has front teeth that she uses to tear the grass and other plants from the ground. She has back teeth that she uses to grind the plants. Here is another large plant-eating animal, the giraffe. See how he, too, grinds his food. The giraffe's long neck would certainly help him reach the leaves growing high on a tree. You have probably seen giraffes in the circus or at the zoo. Have you seen other plant eaters in these places, too? Have you seen elephants? Watch how they use their trunks to bring the hay to their mouths. The elephant's trunk helps him get his food. It takes a lot of food to feed an elephant. Elephants are among the largest plant-eating animals in the world. And here is a very small plant eater, the chipmunk. He's eating the seeds of a dried flower. See how he uses his paws to help him eat the seeds. Of course, many birds, such as the cardinal, eat the seeds of plants too. How do you think the cardinal eats the seeds? He cracks them with his strong beak. Many other birds eat plant seeds. This goldfinch is searching for seeds in the tall plant. What other animals find their food in plants? Bees suck a sweet juice from certain blossoms. This juice is called nectar. The bees make the nectar into honey, which they eat. A bee has a long tongue. It puts the tongue deep into the flower to get the nectar. The bee is not the only insect that gets its food from plants. The grasshopper is a common plant-eating insect. This is how a grasshopper looks when you're very close to it. His strong jaws are well suited for gnawing plants. Now we've seen some of the different animals that eat plants. A cow, a deer, a grasshopper, a goldfinch. The goldfinch, remember, is a plant-eating bird. But many other kinds of birds, like these swallows, are meat-eaters. They catch and eat insects. Do you know other birds that eat insects? If you've ever watched a mother robin, you may have seen her bringing caterpillars and other insects to her hungry family. A worm is food for the robins, too. Many water birds are meat-eaters. They catch and eat fish. The long, strong beaks of most water birds help them catch the fish. Let's watch this pelican, another kind of water bird that eats meat. He dives into the water to catch a fish. Yes, the pelican is a meat-eating bird. These large meat-eating birds are vultures. There is another meat-eater in the picture, a coyote. The coyote looks very much like another meat-eating animal we've seen, the dog. Windy, strong jaws and teeth are well suited for tearing meat and even gnawing and chewing bones. If we could see inside his mouth, we'd find long, pointed front teeth that are used to tear the meat, and sharp back teeth that are used to chew the meat and bones into pieces that are small enough to swallow. Can you think of any very large meat eaters, larger than the dog? Here is one of the largest meat eaters, the lion. Watch his strong jaws as he chews some meat and bones. Sometimes the lion is called a big cat, and that reminds us of Whiskers, the cat. Remember? Yes, Whiskers is a meat eater, too. Now we've seen some animals that eat meat. A cat, a dog, a lion, and a pelican. But here are some birds that eat both plants and meat. Ducks and some other water birds eat both plants and animals. They eat small bits of plant food that they find in the water. They also eat insects and other small water animals, which they sometimes find by diving. Like the ducks, raccoons eat both plants and animals they find in the water. See how he uses his front paws to find bits of food. A raccoon may also search for food in a tree in the woods. Now he has found some insects. With the help of his paws, he catches and eats the insects. This bear is also getting his food from a tree. He is eating the seed pods of the tree. Like raccoons, bears eat both plants and meat. Here is a bear eating meat, a fish he has caught. The pigs we saw before on the farm also eat both plant and animal food. We have seen some animals that eat both plants and meat. A pig, a bear, a raccoon, a duck. We saw meat eaters, animals that eat other animals. And then we saw animals that eat plants. We saw this plant eater, the cow. We saw this meat eater, the dog. We saw this animal that eats both plants and meat, the raccoon. We also saw that wild animals must move about and hunt for their food. We remember, too, that animals have different kinds of beaks, and different kinds of jaws, and different kinds of teeth, suited for eating different kinds of food. And most important, we remember that all living things need food to live and grow.
So I was going. So I have this list where I put all the films that I showed, and I was going through it and adding stuff, and noticed, oh my gosh, it's the 1200th episode. We've been doing this since March 2020, and mid-March 2020, right during COVID. And I'm not counting. Some of you chimed in and said that I used to do a Sunday night show, which is true. I used to before the pandemic. And so during the pandemic, I was like, well, I should do this all the time now because I don't have anything else to do and I want to show these films. So that's what this is about. And that was the film 200, which was made by the psychedelic animator, Vincent Collins. And if you liked his work, and you have Night Flight, the streaming channel on Roku, or I think you can actually watch they have a webpage too. They have a lot of other Vincent Collins's animations, and I should say, I'm trying to put my shoe on. That's what I'm doing right now. And they have a lot more animations, and they are not safe for work. He did a lot of naughty stuff. So, FYI, he was a product of the 60s. He was a bit of a hippie, if you couldn't tell. And so, psychedelic drug stuff and also psychedelic sex stuff. That's what's on that. It's got a YouTube page, Old Radio says. So yeah, check out his work. He's an amazing guy, and what makes it amazing to me is the fact that he got a government grant to make this film, and it was shown on television. There's one shoe. And so this is why we show films. So I showed 6 different iterations of that. So 6 times 200 is 1200. So there you go. That's the reasoning behind that. I didn't mention the ABC's Pool Care, at least in the stream. It's mentioned in the comment. But Golden State Films is the people that made that film, and they made the infamous film Sudden Birth, where we see police officers poorly act their way through actually delivering a baby in the back of a car. Prelinger Archive's got a bunch of the Golden State films from a film lab. I think it was Monaco Labs in San Francisco, and they've been slowly scanning those, including some outtakes from Sudden Birth. So, there you go. But anyways, thanks so much for tuning in today. Again, we love you guys for watching. This is the reason that I've done this as long as I have. And so I'm so happy that you're tuning in every day. If you'd like to support us, why not support us via supporting someone in Western North Carolina? I'm not based in Western North Carolina. We were very lucky. But a lot of times when we talk about like places that get damaged during hurricanes, you're like, well, of course they got damaged. They're on the coast. They have a beach house on the coast, of course. Well, this was not that case. It's very far from the coast, and they got flooded out. So please consider. You don't have to necessarily do this link, but consider some way that you can help those people in Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, Georgia, wherever. So thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. I'm going to meet with my tax accountant.